Hey everybody, and welcome to the Mighty Matt Podcast. I'm Matt Sterling, your host, and I'm delighted to be joined by my guest, Ben Mattlin, who is the author of a new book, Unbound. Welcome, Ben. It's good to have you on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be with you.
Oh, we're honored to have you. So I usually start these off by saying it takes great strength to overcome life's obstacles. So instead of saying what's your disability, I like to ask when you became mighty.
I was born with my disability. I was fortunate that from my parents, I guess, I grew up with the expectation that I could do anything I wanted. I could be anybody I wanted when I grew up, and it never occurred to me.
That's great.
And
so you were born with spinal muscular atrophy. And when was that diagnosed, at birth or
That was 1962. They didn't know what it was. I was, I think, 5 before I got that, learned to say spinal muscular atrophy.
Yep.
Before that, there were many other diagnoses. Began to realize that I really could not just do or be anything I wanted. That the world did not work that way. And so I became more involved in disability rights.
Did you face any kind of adversity as you were navigating the educational system? Because I know you went to Harvard, which is awesome. But leading up to that, did you have any issues with the public school system?
Absolutely. My older brother, who's not disabled, went to private school. We were in New York, and my parents were not sure about the public school system, even then, and somehow they could afford private school. But my brother's school would not take me, and my parents went through a lot of work trying to find a school that would take me.
Sure.
I finally ended up at a very progressive private school where I don't think I learned very much and was not happy with it.
Sure.
It was not accessible. It had stairs, but the attitude was accessible. And so by high school, I said, I want to change schools. I don't like the education here. And again, we went through, would any school take me? And that was in 76. So 2 years before educational access for disabled kids. It was a fight.
My background it's very similar. Parents had to fight to get me mainstreamed, which from a social perspective made a lot of sense because, as you're going out there and you're trying to build a life, you're going to be among able-bodied people to learn how to adapt to that environment.
Well, I'm grateful that I was at least socialized, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
I wasn't isolated or warehoused. I always had friends.
Yeah.
And they would push my wheelchair, and we made a game of it in the early years. Who was the best pusher? And I became a bit of a ringleader, I guess. I was bossy. But it worked out.
Sure.
And then by the time I was ready for college, happened to be the very year that Section 504 of the Rehab Act took effect, and universities had to be accessible.
That's great, because that was early on. What sort of adaptive devices were you using to write and express yourself?
Well, I was sort of a pioneer, and I struggled a lot because my needs were not well met.
Sure.
I was in a dorm, but it was sort of the crippled dorm. I mean, I was not well integrated with other students.
Yeah.
The campus was pretty inaccessible. They tried to accommodate me, sort of. I had to pre-select courses, and they would be moved to more accessible locations. I felt kind of segregated. And in fact, part of this new book, I talk about that, how early on I was kind of ironic and understanding, and well, at least the university is trying. And as I got older and gained a different perspective, I realized I was pretty resentful of the way I was
Okay.
treated.
Yeah, and I noticed that your book is a series of essays that you've done over the around themes.
Yes, that's right.
And so let's talk about some of those themes because I think it's very important for people to understand kind of what your journey's been. Getting back to book and how those essays are organized.
I had 30-some years of published essays and blog posts and some not published, and I realized that I could organize them, not chronologically, but
Yep.
thematically. Some of the pieces are biographical.
Yeah.
Others are arguments, very political, complicated, a little angry, and others are lighthearted and sort of the funny side of life with a disability.
Sure.
I like those best.
There's so much toxic negativity these days. It's good to kind of be able to step back and take a nice, a happy look at life sometimes.
Yeah.
But I would like to spend a little bit of time on what's going on right now because I'd like to get your perspective on this. Because one of the reasons I launched this podcast was my general frustration with the way DEI has been portrayed in the political climate. And ideally, I wanted to showcase disabled people doing incredible things. You look at the disabled community, I feel like we're making strides, and we were, Peacock had the Paralympics on, which was incredible. So you've got disabled people out there and visible, and then now we're dealing with all this negativity. How do you kind of wrap your head around that?
Huh, that's a big question. Well, yeah, I actually tried to write an essay about this and was overwhelmed by the topic.
Yeah.
There's been a lot about how the current administration is unfair to women, minorities, queer people, and so forth. But it's also pretty rotten for disabled people. And I'm not sure that's got as much attention. Everything from cutbacks to Medicaid to clamping down on remote employment, which has been fabulous for me and others like me. There's so many ways that I worry about our community now. And, I always want to chip away at our rights at the ADA. Businesses have never liked. Not to mention all this garbage about autism. All they talk about is the cause and the cure. And they never talk about making our society more accessible for autistic people.
Absolutely, and empathizing with the situation.
Yes.
This isn't something, things are on a spectrum. There's not necessarily a cure for everything. How can you sort of live and integrate people into what's going on? I mean, I think that's my beef with the big immigration situation is, you could be training and providing a path to citizenship for these guys instead of shipping them to a prison in another country.
Oh, yes. Frankly, a lot of us disabled folks depend on immigrant labor.
Absolutely. I mean, you're in California, correct?
I am.
Yeah, I have a friend that I saw at the beach. He's in his 90s. He needs help, around the house, and his helper is afraid to come out of her house because of ice. And it's horrible.
Yeah. There's a lot of that, yes.
I just hope we get back to a place where we're being more inclusive and bringing other people into the fold. Because to your point, with remote, with technology, we're really creating an opportunity for people to participate in society.
Yes. Right.
So I think it's a missed opportunity if we don't include people.
Absolutely. As you said, I graduated from Harvard and I could not get a job until 3 years ago at the age of 59.
Yep.
I finally got full-time employment thanks to remote work.
Yeah.
Thanks to Zoom. It's someone I've been writing for occasionally, and they had a staff opening.
Yeah.
So that's been great for me, and I'm probably not the only one.
In those opportunities, it takes a little bit of creativity. I've interviewed a few of my mentors over the years because it takes a hiring manager to say, hey, this person has potential. Let's put them to work versus, they're in a wheelchair or they have some
Yeah.
disability. They're not useful to us. I think your work has helped push us in the right direction. What are your
Oh,
hopes for this latest book? Who's your target audience and who do you hope picks it up?
this book is aimed at everybody. I think a lot of disabled folks may learn from it or identify with it,
Sure.
uh, but maybe also those who, family members and those who work with disabled folks,
Yeah.
and maybe people who have no association with disability can get a perspective on what life is like, at least for me, and what some of the big issues are. Just last week, out of the blue, got a nice email from a disabled person in the UK
Yep.
who had an issue with getting a new wheelchair.
Yep.
And she said, you know, I was so mad about how difficult the process was.
Sure.
Nobody understood. I started Googling, and she found an essay I'd written, published about 5, 10 years ago,
Yep.
about that very topic. And she just thanked me for getting it out there and articulating something that she was dealing with. That's obviously very gratifying for me. I do think people who have any knowledge of the disability world, picking up this book, sort of dig in. They're short pieces, so you don't have to go in order necessarily, and find something of interest, I hope.
That's great. As I mentioned, the Paralympics being on Peacock was huge for me because you see disabled people in different disabilities, different chairs, different adaptive devices, and it just, I think, makes it less jarring for people. And I feel like the more we can get out there and be seen and be heard, the better.
Absolutely. When I, probably you also, we were growing up, the only really publicly, public view of disabled people were the telethons, right? The
It drives me
fundraisers,
crazy.
this pity approach.
Yeah, it's
Well, that's all
pity,
it was.
and you're angering the disabled community because we don't want to be seen like that
Of
as a way
course,
for you to
right.
make a buck off of us.
Right. And that's all there was.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Now it's a lot better. Although we can always go farther.
One of the things also that I'm hoping to get out of this podcast is when I was growing up, you basically had either a Paralympian or a veteran. There weren't other jobs that you saw disabled people doing.
Right.
So I'd love for you, if you can talk a little bit about the technology that you use to write your books and participate, like when you do a piece for the Times or Time Magazine. Like, how do you do that?
Right. Well, I was an early user of voice recognition software. I remember in late 80s, I went to a demonstration at Cal State Northridge. It was a scientist, professor, whatever he was, and a nerd.
Sure.
He took me into a room and he showed me you had to speak very slowly,
Right.
word by word.
Yeah.
And he said, the computer, to do this, fills a whole room.
Oh, yeah.
You can have it for your house if you've got $40,000.
Right.
Well, within 5 years, it was down to $5,000.
Yeah.
5 years later, it's $100. Now every phone has voice recognition.
Now my 11-year-old son's using it. It's cool.
Yeah, so that to me has been huge.
That's wonderful. So once you get the text in, do you go in and edit it through a
Oh, yeah.
different program, or how do you do that?
Well, I'm an old user of Dragon systems, and I use that for everything.
Oh, that's great.
Website and editing and composition. It's, it's not perfect, but I've been using it for a long time.
Yeah. That's wonderful. The other thing I want to ask you is, how did you meet your wife?
Well, I suppose I should say you've got to read more of my books. My second book was about romance.
Yep.
But we met back east, and my wife is not disabled. But as I say, even then I was still in college, and I always thought, why shouldn't I do the things that anybody else would do?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I asked her out, and we had a date, and it took off from there. And we've been together now for 35 years.
Wow, congratulations.
Can that be right? And we have 2 kids.
That's great. That's great.
Grown and left the nest, and
Nice.
it's been a
So
good
now
life.
that you're an empty nester, what are you guys doing for fun?
Fun? Oh yeah, I've heard of that. We're not traveling. That's not easy for me to travel.
Yep.
We do puzzles and watch old movies, and we seem to keep each other amused, which is
That's
nice.
great. Yeah, you got to have a common sense of humor, right?
Absolutely.
Now, here's one that you'll appreciate, I think, which is, what is the most random question you've gotten from a stranger about your disability?
Where do I start? The most common, I guess, is what happened to you. In fact, one of my essays was about this, being mistaken for Stephen Hawking.
Okay, yeah, right.
I don't look like him,
No.
but we're both in motorized wheelchairs, wear glasses, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
And it happened more than once. That always gets me. And just, people who say, oh, it's good to see you out today.
Right.
Good to see you too?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's nice to see you outside too.
Yeah, I try to tell myself, they mean well, don't be too angry, but it is. There are times I even shy away from going places.
Yep.
Because I don't want the nonsense.
Yeah, it gets exhausting
Us.
after a while. I mean,
It does.
I think you and I, when you're born with a disability, I don't know about you, but I do feel a certain amount of responsibility to put on a good face and be kind and patient and explain things. But you're right. Sometimes I just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah. There's a guy at the grocery store who works there. Whenever I go in, he starts patting me on the head and asking, how am I doing? And he's nice, but it doesn't end,
Yeah, I know.
And I'm like,
Please don't touch me. Don't, pat me on the head. You're not a
Yeah.
golden retriever. You're a person.
Right. Oof, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So I usually close these with a strange question, but I think you and I seem to have a similar sense of humor, which is, if I were to clone you and there were 2 Bens in front of me, what question would I ask to determine the real Ben Mattlin?
Wow, that's a good question. Wow. Favorite Star Trek episode? I don't know.
All right, okay, I like that. Which one is it?
Maybe. I always liked When No Man Has Gone Before, the second pilot from the original series.
Oh, yeah, the original one. I don't even count the other ones.
Right.
So where can people get your book? Can they get it through Amazon?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Wherever books
So-
are sold. It's in paperback and ebook, and we're still trying to negotiate an Audible version.
That's great. So anybody listening, get out there, get Ben Mattlin's new book, Unbound. And Ben, I really appreciate you being on the podcast. This is great.
Oh, pleasure, my pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed that episode, and I hope you'll click like and subscribe so you can meet the mighty.